You know, pressure in ministry isn't always about what's happening in your church. It's often about what's missing in your church. And for a lot of pastors that I work with, at least, the missing piece is structure. Now, I can almost hear the pushback already. I've heard it 1,000 times, right? The church isn't a business, it's a body. And you know what? Absolutely. I 100% agree. But here's the thing, bodies have systems too. I mean, just think about your human body, right? Digestive systems, circulatory systems, skeletal systems. If you take away those systems, the body, it collapses. And here's the deal, that's the same truth for your church. Without systems, your staff burns out, your volunteers drift, your vision stalls before it ever even reaches the people it's meant to serve. And here's the maybe kicker of all, the longer you avoid building this backbone of systems, the heavier the pressure gets on you as a leader. Some of you probably are feeling that right now. You've been praying for relief, but the real issue isn't a lack of faith, it's a lack of framework. So let's kind of reframe this conversation for at least this episode. Structure isn't corporate, it's stewardship. I want you to think about structure, systems. I want you to think about it as a stewardship conversation, not a corporate or a business conversation. Healthy churches, they always organize their environments so that people can flourish. And that's what we want people to do. I mean, right? That's what you want. I mean, think of a structure like your church's circulatory system, actually. It kind of moves vision through the body. It delivers health to the right places at the right times. It keeps the body of Christ aligned so that it can do God's work the way it's designed to do. When you think of it that way, structure isn't the enemy of the Spirit's work, it's a partner with the Spirit. It's what kind of allows Spirit-led ministry to actually be sustainable. So, as you think about kind of your systems, your structure, here's the real question. Where do you begin? I'd love to give you just 4 key systems that every church needs. Now, there are more than this, but at a minimum, these 4 systems will help create a healthy discipleship pathway for your church, or a healthy structure for your church. And if you can strengthen these, man, you're going to relieve some pressure immediately. So here's the first one, and I kind of teased it already. It's a clear discipleship pathway. You have to have a clear discipleship pathway. People in your church should know exactly how to grow in their faith and what their next steps might be. And we certainly don't want the system to be, attend until you figure it out, or, just try this and that, and then maybe a group. I mean, that is a horribly unintentional and unstructured pathway. It's like a skeletal system in your body that's missing half the bones, right? We don't want to do that. So create a clear, intentional pathway. That is a critical structure for your church. Here's another one, volunteer pipelines. This isn't really about just like plugging holes with warm bodies in the schedule, okay? What I really would love for you to have is a healthy volunteer system, because that develops people spiritually and practically, okay? Spiritually is beneficial for them and, of course, the people they're serving, but practically, your church can't survive without volunteers. So this volunteer structure, it is so critical for a thriving church. It should help someone in your church kind of go from maybe curious to confident as they're serving. So as you think about that volunteer pipeline, I have a whole thing I do on this, a whole kind of teaching on, so I won't do it now, but think of it like a funnel where we talk to people who are not volunteering. What are their best volunteer steps? As you build this pipeline, a person who volunteers monthly, or maybe, for 1 month and they're off for a few months because of the system that you've built, what would it look like to engage them in a little next, like a deeper step, and then a deeper step, and a deeper step? Like, where are we pulling our coaches and captains, our true leaders from? Is it from the general population? I mean, I hope not. Hopefully we've got a pipeline that's moving people systematically through it. The third structure that you really have to have is financial rhythms. Now, you have a financial structure already. You have some version of an accounting accounting system internally, maybe an XP, executive pastor, but I'm talking about financial rhythms. Most churches operate very reactively when it comes to money, scrambling to cover the budget every month. You know how this probably feels. Healthy churches, though, have a proactive rhythm as a structure that helps them plan, save, and invest in the mission, short-term and long-term, with confidence. To do this well, you've got to evaluate your monthly budget to actuals. For instance, you don't want to just spend money in a month and then at the end of the month go, well, let's just see how it happened. How did it work out? Where are we against the budget? You should know that before you begin spending. We would never want to run our homes that way, right? So let's run our churches that way. Every month, compare what you spent based on what you said you were going to spend and you planned to spend against that budget. If you are over, have some really hard conversations, maybe with yourself, if that expense piece is over. If you have extra, don't just go spend it. Save it, give it, do something powerful with it that moves the mission forward. That's a structure as a rhythm. And then here's the last one. At a minimum, these four, here's the last one. Communication habits as a structure. Communication, corporate, public, and of course, preaching and so forth. But mostly when we think about how we're communicating to our church body, how we're communicating to our staff, our volunteer teams, that kind of communication, it is the silent killer of ministry momentum. If every Sunday kind of feels like a last minute scramble, you're burning relational and emotional energy that you could be using to shepherd people. Weekly rhythms kind of keep your team united and ahead of the game. And communication may be one of the most important structures and rhythms that most churches struggle to get right. When you think about it, those four things, and of course, there's more than just those four, but I think those are the irrefutable minimums. They aren't just, a leadership podcast idea, okay? This is biblical. Think about in Acts 6, okay? The early church is exploding in growth, but ministry, do you remember, was breaking down. Needs were not being met and tensions were rising. So what did the apostles do? Do you remember? They created a system. They created a structure. They appointed leaders to handle the daily distribution of food. And so some of the apostles could stay focused on prayer and the ministry of the word. And you remember the results of it. The mission advanced. The tensions went down. Growth went up. The structure didn't compete with the Spirit. It served it. And that isn't just true in Acts 6. It's true of your church today. So I know being told to fix your system, can create even more pressure, but you don't have to overhaul your entire church in a week, okay? You do not have to do that. In fact, you shouldn't try to do that. Here's what I would love for you to think about doing. Just pick one broken or maybe inefficient system and work on it this month to make it better. Just one, and just work on it this month to make it better. That's it. If your strategy feels scattered, right, just clarify next steps in the discipleship pathway. Define what a win looks like. That may be all you do this month, and that would be a huge leap forward for you. Maybe volunteers feel like they're disappearing and you can't recruit enough fast enough. Maybe you should just rework your onboarding so it's more relational, repeatable, and inspiring. Like, what if that's all you did this month? Maybe this is a financial thing. Maybe you are living out of a reactive budget cycle. What if you just this month started reviewing the P&L, your cash flow, and your balance sheet, not to see what happened, but to see if you did what you said you were going to do? Who is holding you accountable and who are you holding accountable to that? This is going to help you lead with clarity financially. And then the last one, we talked about communication. Maybe communication at your church just always feels last minute, or you're hearing people say continually, I didn't even know we were having a night of worship. I didn't know we had a young adults gathering. Well, that's a sign, right? That maybe the communication structure isn't as good as it could be. So maybe this month you just work to build a weekly planning rhythm that you can stick to when it comes to communication. It really is amazing how small changes in one system can ripple through the other areas of your church. And when you get one of these small things right, you're able to work on the next small thing. And you know this, the more small wins that accumulate, the bigger the changes can be. So let me kind of end this episode with this. The goal isn't to be more corporate. It is to be more intentional. In fact, the more intentional you are, the more relational and spiritual you can be. because the healthier your systems, the more freely your church can love people and make disciples and see lives changed. So, listen, stop avoiding the backbone of your church needs. A stronger church begins with a stronger system. And here's the thing, you don't have to carry this pressure alone. You know this, but if you aren't sure where to start, I would love to walk you through what that looks like. I'd love to partner with you in that. We could together identify what systems are weak, what are strong, and create a plan to make things better. Listen, let's organize your local body so that the mission can move faster, healthier, forward with, by the way, less pressure on your shoulders.